Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I want to welcome you to this afternoon's Mind Over Matter discussion. My name is Quinn Williams. I'm a wellness guru for the city of Pittsburgh. And we have a very, very wonderful speaker this afternoon, Sally Sherman. And I thought it was appropriate that I read her bio to you so you can get an idea of what kind of person Sally is. So Sally, she's an athlete, she's a yogi and an educator in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She holds a bachelor's in dance and a master's in education and teaching, a master of science in exercise science, and a PhD in exercise physiology. After years of overtraining as a dancer and dance teaching artist, yoga became a beautiful way to heal a damaged body and spirit. She's now a certified Baptiste yoga instructor and has assisted in trainings for Baron Baptiste and other regional yoga organizations throughout the world. In addition, Sally's a regular Wanderlust presenter and certified in both cycling and Pilates. She served as a faculty member at the University of Pittsburgh, where she teaches dance, yoga, Pilates, exercise science courses in the Department of Health and Physical Activity. Also at the University of Pittsburgh, she's a yoga researcher in the Physical Activity and Weight Management Research Center. Hail to Pitt. Sally, I had to say that. She's completed her PhD in exercise physiology at the University of Pittsburgh, where her research focuses on studying in Vinyasa yoga that she loves. Her dissertation work, which is energy expenditure in yoga versus other forms of physical activity, it was the first study of its kind and revealed that Vinyasa yoga meets exercise requirements, despite it not meeting the guidelines according to the American College of Sports Medicine. That research was published in the Journal of Physical Activity and Health in August 2017. As a triathlete, Sally is a sponsored athlete competing in long-distance cycling events, mountain bike races, marathons, ultra-marathons, and Ironman triathlons. Wow. Sally's completed 2 full-distance 140.6-mile Ironman triathlons and uses these events to raise money for local charities, including food banks and Toys for Tots. As a melanoma survivor, she aims to bring awareness to skin cancer prevention, especially among the athletes who spend so much time in the sun. So I wanted to read this so you can get an idea of the type of person that she is. And so much that Sally does is tied into what we do here at the city, because the city employees and the work that they do, it involves the whole city. And so what we do here at City Fit Health and Wellness at Work, we have some things that we're doing right now. The flyers are on the table right here when you came to sign up. So March on the Move. And what that is you can print and download stretches, wellness routines, tracking sheets, workouts. We put together small, quick, effective workouts that you can do at your desk. There's one on the table. It's called Routine Number 1. So this is going to be a series of workouts that we're putting together bi-weekly. It's bi-weekly, right, Cicely and Albert? Bi-weekly? You can subscribe to that, and you can download. It's very fun, very energetic. Also, a lot of you are already familiar with case-specific nutrition. If you need a better relationship with food, if you're lacking energy and quality sleep, if you want to eliminate medications or you're struggling to manage a chronic disease, case-specific nutrition, they can help you with that. They also have a new feature called Healthy Huddles. It's 12 weekly group classes. You have weekly e-receipts and private assessments to monitor the progress on that. And that's going to begin on March 28th. Also, Fitness Your Way. Now, you have to have Highmark as your insurance. But the way it works is Fitness Your Way gives you access to nearly 9,500 fitness locations, including select national chains. And as a Fitness Your Way member, you can visit any participating location. So more information about that is on the table there. And I think they waived their initiation fee for the month of March. Right, Auburn Sisley? Okay. And also there is club options. The club options are available for City Park, Global Fit, LA Fitness, Tivity, and the YMCA. So those are the things that we're doing, and it's associated with what Sally does. And so I've talked enough. I'm going to hand you all over to Sally, and she'll take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. He obviously stalked my website, so. Thank you, everyone, for coming and spending your lunchtime with me. I don't feel like I need to say anything to introduce. I would like the Wellness Guru title, though. I mean, I get like faculty at Pitt, but Wellness Guru, that's a nice title. I could go for that, so. So today we're talking about mind over matter. So we're talking about meditation and how that ties into wellness and how you can make that really accessible and simple. I'm going to make it really simple because it is really simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. So we're going to simplify it today because you're busy people and you don't want to be told just another thing you need to be doing in your day. So I'm really interested in helping you to understand why meditation and mindfulness is important and how you can just really easily do it in your workday or in your life. So that's kind of where we're going today. So just to get all on the same page, I really like this graphic because it gives a really nice representation of what it means to be mindful. So there's a person and a dog. Do any of you have pets? So you understand, like, your dog is in the moment at all times, right? Your dog is not worrying about how the dog's bills are going to get paid or where their next meal is coming from. The dog is just living in the moment, right? So this person and this dog are seeing the same thing. They're experiencing the same moment. There's trees, there's the sunshine, but the person in their head is thinking bills and cars and music and songs and chatter. And the dog just sees sunshine and trees. So that's a really good indicator of mindfulness. And the dog is just experiencing life in the moment as it's happening. This is another graphic that kind of sums it all up. The future, the past, and then we are existing in the present. So right now, we're in this room on the 4th floor of the City County building. You're here with me, right? But how you might be thinking about work that you had to leave behind in order to get here, or you're thinking about what you're going to rush home and make for dinner or whatever. So when we're actually experiencing that we're right here in this room 445 in the City County building, we're here together, then we're living in the present. So of course we spend time kind of mulling over the past and thinking about the future, but when we're being mindful or when we're meditating, we're just calling the mind to show up in the exact same place that the body is in. Right now your body is in room 445. Right? Your body isn't living in that story of when you were a kid or a time in your life, when something else happened. So just calling your mind to the present moment, and that is being mindful. So I just want to get to some myth busting about mindfulness and meditation. I just want to get right to that because this is where our mind goes so far. Like, well, I can't do that, right? So I'm bad at it. Like, I can't sit and, focus on my breath and kind of where I am right now. People say, like, well, I'm terrible at that. Yeah, we all are. That's the human condition. So pull yourself away from thoughts of like, oh, I'm not good at that. Another one is I have to clear my mind in order to do that. Another thing, good luck with that, right? We can't do that. Don't try to do that. You don't clear the mind. You get to choose at that moment what your mind is focusing on. So it's not at all clearing the mind. It's just focusing the mind on something that you're choosing. I have to do it for X amount of hours in order for it to be worth doing, right? I have to meditate for 45 minutes or I haven't done any good. No, that's not it at all. I'm going to lead you through just like a 1-minute meditation and give you resources. If you have 1 minute to meditate, it would be worth it for you and worth your time. I'm too busy, and I'm going to show you some data about how we're actually, if we slow the mind down, how we can actually be more productive, slowing down in order to speed up, and how multitasking is actually hurting us. So we're too busy not to put these techniques in, and that it's wasted time. This is actually really good time. And I love that the programs that you have available to you here are so valuable, and we wish every company across the world had these programs in place. And just the way that your nutrition is important and your physical activity is important, your mental space is very important as well. So I assure you this is not wasted time. So I just want to lead you in a 1-minute meditation. Can I do that? Okay, all right. So it's okay if you're eating, and you can just kind of put your feet on the ground under your chair. And try not to lean back in your chair. Try to just sit nice and upright and put your hands down on your thighs. Now sit up nice and tall. Go ahead and close your eyes. I promise nothing weird is going to happen. Just close the eyes. Now start to take a big breath in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Big full breath in. Emptying breath out. Big breath in. Make a bigger inhale this time. This exhale, take a little bit longer to get it all out. Full deep breath in through the nose, filling the lungs. Breath out, emptying out. One more big breath in. And a breath out. And go ahead and open your eyes. So you just meditated. Pretty simple, right? All you did was focus on your breath. I didn't say anything fancy. I didn't need special training to say anything that I said. I just connected you to your breath. It's a wonder that we breathe all day without thinking about it. Does anybody else think that's a miracle? I think that's a miracle. It's a wonder the heart will beat and you don't even have to think about it, right? It just happens. And for how much we walk around with like a really short, quick breath, I'm surprised we all survive the day. So just slowing down, and the reason why I had you put your hands on your legs was to just connect to your physical body. Like here I am in this room, and I asked you to sit up nice and tall. Again, you connected to your physical body. I put that cue in, and all of a sudden you sat up nice and tall. You were aware of your posture. Your eyes closed. We just took away visual distractions, but you don't have to close your eyes to meditate. And I just asked you to think about your breath going in and out. Very simple way to meditate. I call that just kind of a mindful moment. Now, meditation and mindfulness is really popular, and I hope that that's not trendy and it's going to go away, but I really think that one of the reasons why it is grown in so much popularity, and it's something people are talking about, is because of yoga, because we know that yoga is one of the ways, one of the limbs of yoga, or the things about it, is the poses. So that's just one portion of yoga, kind of the moves, what position your arms and legs are in. But yoga calls us to be mindful and meditative because we're connecting the mind to the physical body and to the breath. The word yoga just means union. So we're uniting those things when we do yoga. So yoga has really grown in popularity. So I think that that's why people have experienced it and they're talking about it. And so there's some research on it too that I'm going to show you. So now, there was a study done in 2016 that really sort of questioned yoga in America. Has anyone in this room done yoga? Have you experienced yoga? Okay, good. So this was by Yoga Journal and the Yoga Alliance, and so they were really interested in, it seems like everyone's doing yoga, so are they? So they went out and they did a nationwide survey, so a really nice big study, and I just want to show you some of their data. So this might be hard for some of you to see where you are, but it says that the number of American practitioners of yoga has grown by over 50% over the last 4 years. So in 2012, we had 20.4 million people practicing yoga in this country, and that has increased to 36.7 million in 2016. So yes, lots and lots of people doing yoga. And what this graphic shows us is basically that the people that do yoga are doing more of all of these other things as well. So could it be that they go to yoga and they start to experience less stress and more mindfulness, and they start to get a little bit stronger, and then it frees them up to do all these other things like group classes and weightlifting? Or were they doing those things all along? We don't know. But this graphic basically shows us that people that practice yoga end up being more active all across the board. And I do yoga research at Pitt, so it's something near to my heart. And then this shows us who is doing yoga. So basically every region in the US is represented, every age is represented, and we have about 28% males doing yoga and 72% of females doing yoga. So a lot more women than men, but 28% of people doing yoga are men. And 37% of all people doing yoga have children under the age of 18 who are doing it with them. So this is my little yogi right here. And she's been doing yoga since she was in the womb, really. But she's just an example of someone who's kind of grown up with yoga and meditation and these things as just sort of part of her life. So 37% of those of us doing it have children who are growing up doing it. So we really have this opportunity to create the next generation of yogis that's going to be even larger. So we're not going to see things like mindfulness and meditation going away. This shows us why people say they started doing yoga to begin with, and then why they kept doing yoga. And one thing I want to point out to you here on the left side, people are going to things like yoga for stress relief, stress reduction, mental health, spiritual development, and then they're still maintaining that belief that they're achieving that. So they're continuing to go to yoga because they feel like that's occurring. So people are seeking something and feeling like they're finding it at yoga. So this is some of the research that I do at the University of Pittsburgh. So one thing, and we're going to be talking about one of the pieces of this, which is heightened mindfulness. So we don't have a lot of data to say that people who practice yoga lose weight. But what we do have is a lot of data to show that yoga participation results in these things right down here in the middle. They burn calories, they deal better with stress, they get improved mood and decreased depressive symptoms, they feel reduced pain in their body, they improve their sleep, and they feel this heightened mindfulness. And then what we do know in the research is that all of those things do lead to weight loss. You improve your sleep, you're probably going to lose weight. You become more mindful through heightened mindfulness with some of the things I'm going to be showing you today. A lot of those people experience weight loss. So weight loss is not everything, but if that's something that you're concerned with, mindfulness is another way for you to achieve that. So mindfulness is an important mechanism because for weight loss and for overall health, because we have some data to show that mindfulness is effective for modifying physical activity. So whether or not you're going to be physically active, eating behaviors, and we all eat, so we all want healthier eating behaviors, and potentially body weight as well. So there are some studies on mindfulness being used in weight loss. And this study explored how well mindfulness-based intervention happened in a standard behavioral weight loss program, and found that the group that did mindfulness found a significant greater increase in physical activity and a significantly greater reduction in BMI, their body mass index, compared to the control group. This one, a group had to do little mini meditations before they ate. So what this found, and they were studying eating sweet foods and fasting glucose levels, so how well they lost weight and those other factors. And what they found is basically that the mindfulness group had a greater increase in mindful eating from baseline to 12 months compared to the non-mindfulness group. And the mindfulness group didn't crave things like sweets. Wouldn't that be nice if you didn't crave sweets, right? So the group that was eating mindfully and was actually doing little mini meditations, similar to what I just did with you, just really connecting to your physical body. If we're not connected to our physical body, how do we know when we're hungry? Or do any of you eat for other reasons not hunger? I do, right? You're stressed, you're procrastinating, you're anxious, whatever it is. But these people might have been more tuned into how much they were actually hungry, and then they just ate to the point that they weren't hungry anymore, and then they stopped eating. So this is some interesting data. And here's another study that randomized people to mindfulness-based eating awareness training, and this also showed decreases in binge eating disorder compared to control group for mindfulness. So just some really interesting thing in terms of mindfulness and BMI. Now, yoga and meditation are really hard to study. So this is a picture of one of my co-authors on some of the research that I do, and just to kind of give you an example of what it looks like to study yoga. And so we use some Oxycontin mobile technology that allows the participants to move their arms and legs around and not get tangled in any cords. But that is basically measuring the oxygen he's taking in and the carbon dioxide coming out. It's using heart rate and all of these other things, and then the data is being collected on him. So, you know, yoga is difficult to study, and mindfulness is difficult to study because we can't see it. How do I know if you're doing it? When I asked you to close your eyes and breathe, how do I know, as a researcher, if you were thinking about paying your bills or your stresses or your worries or thinking, oh, I wish she would just be quiet, right? So it's really hard to study these things. So that also helps us to, we have to think about more creative ways to get to these questions. So this was just a study that was done by Jakisik et al. In our department before I was actually at Pitt. And they randomized a group of people to a weight loss intervention, and then they randomize a group to the weight loss intervention plus yoga. And the yoga done in the study, it was absolutely yoga, but it was really restorative. So they weren't in a heated room, sweating and dripping. It was very, very restorative yoga. Lots of props, lots of lying supine on the ground. Very, very restorative yoga, which is why I'm bringing it up to you today. So a lot of mindfulness and imagery and awareness of your breath, those sorts of things. And what they found is that the lifestyle plus the yoga group, they actually had a much bigger retention rate. So a 94.7% retention rate, which is really unheard of in standard behavioral weight loss interventions. We usually get about 60%, somewhere around there. So 94.7% is a lot. So they just stuck around. They hung in there longer. They reported that they enjoyed what they were doing. So it increased their enjoyment of the program. And they also lost more weight. So I showed this data to a group of physicians at the American Diabetics Conference, and they all gasped. They were like, what? So this is great news. So again, was it because they enjoyed it? Was it because it decreased their stress levels and helped them sleep? We don't know exactly why that is. So we're doing a bigger study to kind of get at some of these questions. And then this graphic basically shows that the more of it that they did, the more of the yoga that they did, the more weight they lost. So I just want to guide you through a very simple moving meditation, because I want to show you that you don't have to be still when you meditate, okay? You look scared. Everybody got really scared. They're like, what are you going to have me do? So all we're going to do is stand and sit and just move our arms. Is that okay? All right, so just kind of push your chair away from the desk to where you can put your feet planted on the ground. Go ahead and stand up. So put your feet down right beneath you. Stand up nice and tall. Start to breathe fully in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now on your next inhale, reach both your arms up in the air. Look up. On your exhale, bring your hands together and bring them right into your heart center. Exhale. And then breathe in, reach both arms up overhead. Breathe out, bring your hands right down to the heart. 2 more times. Breathe in, reach. Breathe out, hands to chest. Breathe in, reach. Breathe out, hands to heart. And take a seat. So we just moved. We moved our body. Ways you can do this: yoga, Tai Chi, right? You could go on meditative walks, and these are some of the points that I'm going to give you later on. You could go for a simple walk down the hallway, and it could be meditative. Now, if you're walking down the hallway thinking about what you're going to do when you get to the office that you're going to, that's not mindful. Mindful is I can feel my feet hitting the ground. I'm noticing my breath. Maybe I'm even hearing the sounds in the hallway. Those aren't distractions. Those are happening in the present moment. So let your mind wander to those things, okay? So that's just another example of a meditation. So what is stress costing us? This is hard to look at, right? So Time magazine had a really good mindfulness issue, and they kind of had a picture of a whole human body and from head to toe how it's affecting us. So I tried to kind of simplify it just a little bit. So your brain, damaged short-term memory. Did you remember where you parked your car this morning or in the Target lot? Nose, seasonal allergies. Stress can make those worse. Mouth, energy released at night through teeth grinding. Any of you wake up with a headache or teeth grinders? Heart, narrowed arteries, increase in your heart rate. Stomach, a slower GI tract, changes to the balance in gut bacteria. Fertility, alters signals that impact hormone regulation. And body weight, a stressful event usually causes you to burn about 104 less calories a day. So that is, that could be substantial. That's an extra cookie. So stress is definitely costing us a lot. And then, we're so savvy with like the smartphones. You can do everything on our phones anymore. But there's some research out of MIT in the neuroscience department. And they found that every time you switch, like, oh, I got a text message, oh, I checked my email, it takes your brain 25 minutes to get back on task at the rate where you were at it before you switched. 25 minutes of productivity every time we look. Ooh, I found that to be really startling and scary, right? So when we have bigger projects that have a deadline that we're working on, we need to stay really focused for, we need to silence our phones. And I'll give you some little tips for doing that. So we think, oh, I'm just quickly going to check my email. I'm just quickly going to look to see if I heard back from that person with a text message. And it's actually not quick at all. It's really costing us. So there is this switch cost. And then there's this phantom text syndrome. Do you feel like you heard your beep go off and you think you have a text even when you don't? So that's happening at the level of our brains. So that's a little bit scary. In the same way that someone who might have had a limb amputated feels like they still feel pain there, there's now this thing called phantom text syndrome. So, and then device multitaskers have less gray matter in the brain, more obsessive compulsive disorder, more depression, and anxiety. So multitasking and trying to be so darn efficient is harming us at the level of our brains. So, the science out on meditation, I don't want you all to leave depressed. You look depressed. There's good news.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So on the multitasking, how is that defined?
She's saying, yes, how do we define multitasking? So I'm sending an email and I'm also reading a text message, or so specifically device multitasking? Okay. Yes. Good question. Thank you for asking that. So the science out on meditation, there's quite a bit. So I shared with you a little bit about meditation and weight loss, because weight loss is something that we really study at the Physical Activity and Weight Management Research Center. But decrease in pain sensitivity, decreased inflammatory conditions such as asthma or arthritis, more happiness. So our brain releases serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins after meditation. Decreased blood pressure, improved digestion, and improved cognitive function. So our brains are more efficient when post-meditation. We've already done 2 of those today. So now when it comes to children in meditation, so some of you have children, but also this really makes sense, and this is probably applicable to adults as well, but this study was specific about children. Less aggression, that makes sense, right? More self-control, because they're more aware of what they're doing in the moment. They report of being better liked. So when we're not stressed, people want to be around us. When we're not reactive, people might be more likely to want to be around us. So better liked. Increased math scores, specifically with children. When we see that increased cognitive function, that makes sense. Fewer ADHD symptoms. Increased focus, and decreased depression. So this is all research out, some really sound research on meditation and children specifically. So when we talk about multitasking, kind of this digital sabotage, and how we can actually start to sort of turn the tables and still use the technology that we need to use all day, but just kind of take control of it a little bit, so that we're kind of taking control of our brains and kind of choosing when we're being triggered for things. And so I'm just going to be giving you some little things that you can incorporate into your day. So one thing is just putting it down. I mean, so many times, as a phone rings, that's really funny. That's okay. It's as though we rehearsed that, actually. So putting the phone down, how many times we have them just out of habit, right? Or we just have it in our hand and therefore we're looking at it. So being conscious about, I don't actually need to be looking at this right now, or I don't actually have to be on call to this right now. Turning it off. When's the last time you turned off your device? Turned it completely off, right? You do? A half hour ago. Well, thank you. Right, that's very good. Putting it on airplane mode is another thing. You don't have to be on an airplane to use the airplane mode of your device. So that's another thing that you can start to utilize and see if that's helpful to you. Stack it. Do any of you have sort of the policy with your friends that when you go out to dinner, you stack all your cell phones in the middle of the table? Yeah. You need to do this because it's really fun. Next time you're having dinner, or even at home or out with friends, the rule is you have to stack your device in the middle of the table. First person to touch their device has to buy dinner for everybody. Sound like a plan? But it's a good one, so start to implement that. I'm going to get some hate emails about that one, but it's okay. So that's just a really good tactic, like, hey guys, let's actually be here together in the same room instead of on our devices, so let's stack them. So I really like that. A group of my friends does that, and I think it's really good. And then swap it. So often we're putting everything on the device. When's the last time you held a paperback book that you're reading? I find if I'm reading a book on my phone, or then I notice when an email comes in or when a text comes in. So swap it out when you don't actually have to be using it for that. When we do weight loss interventions in the lab, we often use paper diaries. People write down on paper what they're eating and they keep track of it on paper. We're still using those paper diaries, and I think that's really good because there's so many other ways electronically to keep track of that data. So swap it out at times where you really could. So wellness specifically at work in terms of being mindful and in meditation. I just wanted to kind of give you just a couple pointers of ways that you might not even think that you're being mindful, and it's actually a form of meditation. And one is acceptance. So there's so much to complain about, right? Especially at work. Do any of you have the perfect job where nothing ever goes wrong and everybody's just kumbaya all the time? No? So acceptance at work. So thinking about, well, what's really good? What's really good? So what is going on that is actually I'm going to accept, and I'm going to acknowledge something that's going really well. And so just bringing the awareness to that, you might have to dig deep, maybe, but just bringing in awareness to that, that's a mindful moment. So that's a really good practice to have. Gratitude. Think about maybe people at work that have helped you along the way. Maybe there's parts about your job that you really like that they have people on staff to try to help you to be healthy. There are so many companies that would love to have that. So that's something I would definitely be grateful for if I worked here with you all. I would definitely be grateful for that. So people kind of poking at you all the time to take good care of you. And that doesn't just make you a better employee, but it makes you a better mom, a dad, a partner, all of those things. So finding ways at work and just moments to be grateful. Having a moment where you show an act of humility. So how about thanking someone or showing some kind of appreciation to someone at work for something? Of course, these things apply at home too, but we're specifically talking about wellness at work. So some kind of act of humility at work. Maybe doing something without complaint that really isn't your job, that you kind of feel like you shouldn't have to do, but you're doing it, and it's an act of humility. And just knowing, well, this is my act of humility for the day, and maybe leaving a note for someone that you really appreciate, something that they did or that they helped you do. That's a really good mindful, easy mindful moment And then slow down to speed up. So this is some of the multitasking we talked about. Be a single tasker. So absolutely, in a workday, multitasking is necessary, right? But how often are we doing it to a level where it doesn't really need to be done at that? So kind of just start to, after today, just raise your level of awareness for when you're multitasking and you don't need to be. And very often what we find is we're multitasking and the other things that we're multitasking with are just distractors, right? Like social media or text messages or, the news or something that you're multitasking with that you don't actually need to be doing. So finding that you're more productive if you're a single tasker. And remember that switch cost that they really defined out of MIT, 25 minutes. So every time we do something, 25 minutes. So specifically if you're needing to write something or create something, that would be a great time to turn off your notifications and just, turn off the sounds so that you're not distracted. Using reminder bells is a good idea. So I have an example of this. A couple weeks ago, a good friend asked me to meet with her and her daughter was really experiencing some stress at school. And so this was something I cared about. Right? I care about this person, I care about her daughter, I care about her daughter's mental health, but I needed to go pick up my daughter off the school bus by a certain time. So I had two choices. I either sat in the meeting, looking at my watch, making sure I wasn't late for leaving for the bus, or I set a reminder bell, which I did, just my alarm on my phone to tell me this is time to go to the school bus to get my daughter. So, and I knew what time I needed to leave in order to pull that off. So that was just a simple example of, instead of being distracted as this girl is, telling me about her life right now, instead of being on the watch or maybe missing picking up my daughter off the bus, I set a reminder bell. And it's helpful if you don't use the really loud alarm, kind of the noise that's not so pleasant, but just a reminder bell. There's a lot of options on your smart device of bells and a sound that just triggered me at that moment that I knew I needed to close out the session and head to the bus. So that's just an example. If there's something that is distracting you that you will need to attend to in your meetings or your face-to-face things, silence everything. Turn on that reminder bell, set it, use it as a tool, and then you're not looking at your device. And that way people are getting more of you. They're getting a better you because they're getting fully you and not a distracted you as well. Have any of you ever driven in your car somewhere and then you don't really remember driving there? Have you done that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're like, was I on autopilot? How did I get here? And it's really scary when we do that and there's a little person in the back seat. Right? That's even scarier. So that's an example of being mindless. That's not being mindful. So mindfulness, really being aware of what's going on around us. Little mindful breaks. So I'm assuming all of you use the restroom in this building at some point in your workday. That's a really great moment that's necessary. And take a mindful break. So not making that mindful would be talking on the phone the whole way there and kind of stressing in your head while you're in there. Instead, how about walking to the bathroom that's further away from you? In my office, in our laboratory, the bathroom is right outside my door. So I actually go downstairs and go to the locker room that's on the floor below me and then come back up because it's a nice, just a mindful moment. And then again, you're leaving your device, you're walking down the hallway, you're noticing your breath. You're just being aware of yourself and maybe how you're feeling. If you notice that, you might find some tension in your body that you weren't aware of, like tension in your neck or in your shoulder. And then you can just kind of release that and relax that. But if you weren't aware of it, you weren't even aware that it was happening. So little mindful walks, and they can be in the room. They can be, you can just do little circles in your office, in your cubicle. It doesn't have to be far. Just standing up, leaving things behind, and just taking that mindful moment, really, really effective. And also in that, you could just breathe. I showed you very simple. The first thing I did, I just had you sit and breathe really fully. And then I just had you stand. You can even stand on your inhales, sit on your exhales. That's just connecting movement with breath and mindfulness. But you could also just stretch. You know, they're giving you so many great resources right here that have examples of stretches on them. If you find that you're more of a kinesthetic person, you need to move around in order to kind of get something, connect some of their stretches, pay attention to the way that you're breathing when you're stretching, and that is a mindful moment. You didn't think of it as meditation, but it really is meditative, and you'll get some of those really nice benefits of that as well. And then eat consciously. How many of us, we like eat on the fly. Did you ever eat something you don't even remember eating it or feel like you ate it? Happens all the time, right? So remember some of that research that I showed you. Just being connected to what you're eating when you're eating it and being aware, taking deep breaths. We do this exercise with our students at the University of Pittsburgh in exercise science, and we have them mindfully eat a raisin to kind of prove a point. And so we have them look at the raisin, smell the raisin, bite the raisin, chew it several times before swallowing it. And it's kind of silly and we laugh, but that's what mindful eating to an extreme looks like. You're actually being aware of the food that you're eating and you're appreciating it. How about appreciating the hands that cooked the meal, even if you threw it together? How about appreciating that you have food to eat? So that is mindful eating. And then we saw in that research that eating mindfully and just doing little meditations, just, okay, before I scarf this down, I'm just going to take 5 deep breaths and just really get connected to my body and my sensation of hunger, and then I'm going to eat my meal. That is mindful eating. So you'll actually get to experience your food instead of just scarfing it down. So when possible, and I know this is difficult, but turn your devices off when you're eating. No TV when you're eating at home, just mindful eating, actually experiencing the food that you're eating as you're eating it. So this is my contact information at the University of Pittsburgh, and one thing that I have is a website, and on my website I have free meditation podcasts, and I actually have some business cards for the website specifically that I can give you that has the website address on it, but it's just sallyshermanpittsburgh.com, and there you could pull it up on, it's mobile friendly, or it's your computer, and you just click, if you have 1 minute, and you want someone to talk you through a meditation, you just click the 1 minute meditation. I'm sure you have 1 minute to meditate, right? And you can just start there and try it. There's a 5 minute, there's a 15 minute. But again, remember, you don't need to do it for a period of time in order for it to be effective and beneficial. So don't get it in your head that, you know, in order to do it, it has to be really long and lengthy and arduous. It does not. But I just have that as a resource. But also, there's great resources on YouTube as well, free resources of, there's like little breathe in, breathe out flowers. There's like little lotus flowers. And all you do is connect your breath to the flower. When the flower opens, you breathe in. And when the flower closes, you breathe out. So these are all little free things that you can Google or find on YouTube, resources that can really help you. So do you have any questions for me? Yes, question.
When eating,
Yes.
if you have a 2-year-old, what do you suggest?
She said when eating, and you have a 2-year-old, what do you suggest? Prayer? Right. Yes, like, God, please help me get through this. That's a really great question, because that's a distraction, right? It's a distraction, and maybe the 2-year-old is fighting you on wanting to eat. And I would say, connecting yourself to your own breathing and your own body. And of course, you're feeding another little person. But also remember, that 2-year-old and whatever is going on is happening in the present moment. So I would just say, be aware, hear every complaint, and you notice every sensation and smell and sound. And as long as you are being present with that little person, which, you know what, when we're parents, we have to be, right? It's kind of like when we have animals. The animals are just present all the time. They kind of really teach us. Children can really teach us mindfulness as well. So I would say even when the situation you're in isn't fantastic, staying connected to it and not allowing your mind to wander of like, I wish this was different or something. Stay connected to that moment in all of its craziness, and you are being mindful. That's a really great question. Really great. Any other questions? That was a really good one. Feel free to email me if you come up with any questions or you have any that you just don't want to ask in front of anyone. So I hope that I've simplified mindfulness and meditation for you, because again, it's not easy because it requires us to kind of unwire from the way that we've trained ourselves, but it's actually simple. It's actually addition by subtraction. It's taking things away, not going like, oh, I need to go get all this training in order to do this. No, you just need to be still or just connect movement to breath, and you'll be being mindful. So thank you very much for spending your lunch hour with me today. Now go eat consciously and be aware of the food that you're eating. Thank you very much. Thank you.